Today is March 29th. I figured I would take a video of our ditch situation. So this area, there was absolutely no sign of a ditch when we bought the property, when we moved in. Jax, come here. Come here. The ditch used to pretty much, it kind of sort of had this very, very narrow path that kind of sort of wound its way, starting a little bit after the culvert up there, and then it just kind of stopped, and this was flat land. So traditionally, when we first bought the house, this is where the majority of the washout was, and it would wash out down here. There's actually a lot of the green stuff you see isn't actually grass, but well, I don't know what the plant is called, but kind of plants you see with the starting development of a wetland. This is my property line. There's another fence right there. This little section actually belongs to my neighbors. They have already told us that we can dig the ditch because I believe this ditch was supposed to cut across to finally hit this bit of hill. And from there, the way the land is, there's Highway 62 right there. There's a culvert under there, a really, really big, tall one. So I believe this ditch was supposed to be carried to about that area and then hit the lay of the land and be carried out the rest of the way. Instead, it's been washing out here, and it would hit all of this and just kind of sort of make its way back over there, but it was a very, very small amount of water. A lot of it did still kind of wash out here. You can see how wet the ground is, and so a decent amount of it still made its way out to the river on the other side of the property. So we have attempted to dig this out. The first year we dug something half as wide as this, maybe about a foot down, and when I came back in the spring to look at it, it didn't just fill in with gravel, it was actually mounded over. You can see kind of how shallow it is right now, and you probably wouldn't believe me, but that was actually a foot and a half deep when we dug it just in the fall, in an attempt to get some of the water moving so that we can dry this area out and actually make use of it. You can see we've been trying to clean this side of our property up for a while now to be able to bring livestock in here. That's where the fencing project ended last year, and this is the area that it's supposed to come and continue on to. I will be talking with the neighbors again about possibly continuing the ditch across because they don't actually use this area of their property. If they give me the green light again, we'll put a gate in here. And that way we can put the ditch underneath and we can open up the gate and redig it as we need to. And, you know, if we get the ability to have equipment, we can bring the equipment in here and dig it out real quick. But just this itty bitty stretch of ditch was several weeks worth of digging. Truthfully, this ditch needs to be a minimum. Jax, come here. Hey, Jax, get over here. Come on. It needs to be about at least 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep. Truthfully, with the amount of washout we get, probably deeper. So you can see where we've been depositing to try to create an artificial hill to artificially make it deeper so we don't have to dig quite so down, because obviously that goes uphill. So if we dig it down but then we put it up here, we've made the ditch deeper by not just digging down but also building up the low side. Jax, come! Jax, come! Ugh, puppy brain. Jax, come! You're on the wrong side of the fence, buddy. That's not supposed to be one of the ones you go under. And this is another reason why we need to get all of our fence up. Not just to keep our dogs in, but also to keep strays, well, not strays, but neighbor dogs out. Come, boy. So our property line actually goes to the very top of that hill and runs along up there. We do have a very cheap and crappy temporary fence up. That'll probably stay up because that hill is so unstable, and you can see all the trees falling down, that it was extremely difficult for us to even put up that fence and I don't have a whole lot of hope of it staying very stable and staying up. So we'll keep that up as a property marker, but our actual livestock fence is going to stay down right along the bottom here. So this is what we dug last fall. And as you can see, like, it's not very wide. It's not very deep. There's a lot of rocks, which makes digging with a shovel even more difficult. Yeah, the amount that this is filled in, like, that's probably 4 inches to the top of the hole where we started digging. But last year we had that at least a foot, if not a foot and a half deep. And that just goes to show, like, even though the majority of the stuff is washing out way up there, there's still enough crap coming down here to fill this in. Which is why we need physical equipment, because this ditch has to be a lot bigger than it is. So this is, we're going to be taking stock of the full, well, I guess the full ditch, see how it's all doing, because it's non-existent. So we dug this out, one of our shovels, and we got water washing down here. And you can see our plan was, dig a small little canal to plan out the root, and then come in and dig it deeper and wider. And here you can see right here, even though the culvert is way up there, like, you can't even see where the ditch used to be. And this, when we moved in, was an actual ditch. There was real ditch here. And it's just so filled in that now you can't even tell. And you can't really tell, but you can see how much gravel that we dig out. And this area actually has a lot of gravel in it now because of all the washout from the previous years. So right about there, I would say, is where the ditch disappeared when we originally moved in. And it was, and by ditch I mean something like this. This was about all that remained, and it wasn't even that deep when we first moved in on this side of the culvert. Jax, come! Jax! Come! And so this is all filled in now. So the challenge then becomes, Jax, come! Anywho, so the challenge then becomes trying to find the culvert. But there's a whole nother aspect to that challenge, because there is a culvert somewhere right here. Like, there's the other side of the ditch, and somewhere in this general vicinity is a culvert. And all we can really do is just start digging and hoping that we find it, and hoping that we're not missing it. This culvert is a small one, maybe a foot in diameter, maybe. But you see, the problem is that as soon as we start digging, the water pours in and it gets so dirty and so cloudy we can't even see what we're digging anymore. Not to mention, we're literally standing several feet down into, well, not here, this culvert's pretty close, but the other one further up, it's, 2.5 feet down, and we had to stand in that water to try to dig it, and boots only go so high. Just blindly digging, hoping to find this culvert. So this is the new path the water is created, but I want to say the original ditch when we first moved in was more like here. And I mean, we do get a decent amount of water that comes down off the hill, but this hill continues on up past the edge of our property, and we're getting all the water from all of those ditches coming down. All the water from the road and the ditches comes right down onto our property. Here, this is the other side. Clearly, there is no signs of a ditch. We came in at the fall last year to try to clear up a lot of the brush because this was so overgrown. Like, we didn't know any of this was here for pretty much the whole first year we lived here. It was so all overgrown. So we came in the fall. We started digging that out, but we knew that if we wanted to continue, we needed to come out here with a wood chipper, a weed whacker, chainsaw. A lot of this is really, really aggressive thorn thickets. Some of it wild blackberry bushes, but not all of it. So we're gonna continue on this way. Keep calling the puppy back to me, easily distracted. So this was actually much deeper, much wider when we first moved in. It's filling in quite a bit. Now you couldn't even walk anywhere near this close to this ditch before because it was just so overgrown. It was a struggle to take stock of the condition of the ditch for the past couple of years because there was just so much overgrowth. We could only step into a few places that weren't so overgrown, take a peek at the condition, try to like get down in there and try to like look down, and it wasn't nearly this clear. So there was large areas of this ditch that we were not able to see until last fall. So this is probably among the deepest and widest parts of the ditch, and believe it or not, most of the ditch was like this when we moved in, going on 4 years ago now, or at least the parts that we could get to and see were like this. The area that filled in last year was this deep, which is how we almost got our truck stuck in it. When the mud wouldn't allow us to go up the hill and trying to back down, our truck just kind of started sliding its way into the ditch, and the neighbor actually had to lend us a really big heavy chain so we could use another truck to grab it and yank it over to get off the ditch, off the hill safely. As it is now, up there where we almost got the truck stuck, you could just drive over it. So this right here is what the entire ditch needs to look like. Really deep, really wide. It needs to be like this the entire way. So we're coming down here. You can see quite a bit of water. And yeah, that's a lot of water. That's only a fraction of what should be coming down here. Here's more ditch. This is a very shallow and narrow. Obviously, we still have more cleaning up to do. We just ran out of time in the fall because we spent the entire... There's a dead deer in this ditch. We spent the entire spring and summer working on this fencing project. And we can't even finish it because we can't bring the fence around. There's a dead deer in this ditch. I wonder when that got there. Okay, so continuing on. And then this area is completely dry, which is funny. But that's why this area is dry. It's because it's washing out up here. So you can see the newest blockage. That wasn't like that. So when we cleared out the culvert up there, all of that gravel and stuff washed out. And yeah, there's a couple of logs here which didn't help, but these are only here as of this year. And this ditch my brother-in-law actually dug out for us 2 years ago. And you can see it just completely filled over. It's washing out into my pasture. It used to be that it washed out into my pasture right there. You can see the muddy spot where it has been traditionally wet because it washed out there. So this was dug out just 2 years ago. This was 2.5, 3 feet wide, 1.5 foot, 2 feet deep. And Jax, hey, Jax, come here. Chasing birds. Oh boy. But all this gravel should not be here. This should be dirt. This is just gravel that's spilled over and washed out. You can see all the gravel making its way down into my pasture. That whole spot right there, that's all gravel. We're gonna continue on. Yeah, so all of this was dug out rather recently, and you can see just how much gravel is here. Come down. Now, mind you, when I first started trying to get all this fixed and asked the highway department to come out and take care of it, none of this fence was up. There was more than enough room for big equipment to come in and wrap this up in just a couple of days. But you know, we can't put everything on hold, and our horses were getting out, so we had to get up better fencing. And like I said, I still have not heard back from the legislators, and I have sent 3 separate emails to them, and I went to the county courthouse, gave them a written letter, and still have not heard back from them. Haven't spoken to anybody. So about how deep this is, that's probably about how deep the entire ditch needs to be. That ball was not actually our ball. Washed in from my neighbor's yard. Continue on down. Looks like we may have a groundhog. You can see the trash and stuff that washes down from the ditch. Got more trash right there. This is also more gravel that washed down from up here. I have officially asked the county to pay for all the damages. My property value has plummeted because of this. By at least $20,000. You can see there's a culvert. This wood was left in here by loggers. It's not a terribly deep culvert. It's also a little bent. It's not a big enough culvert for the amount of crap that comes down. And that used to be a foot or more down underneath the culvert, that drop used to be. So that's just how much sediment is also washing down. This is where, and you can see it is cutting into my pasture at this point. There's just so much water. This is where we dug out last fall. We dug down blindly, quite a bit blindly, to find the culvert, and we finally found it. And 4 weeks later, it was blocked again, and like this, we couldn't. And it was ice cold outside. You can't stand in that water safely and dig, and you just have to blindly dig, and all the sediment comes in, and you can't see what you're digging, and the whole thing is constantly filling up with water. Even though last time we filled in and diverted the water out that way to attempt to dry this area up for us to dig, the ground is just so saturated that as we dug, it just poured water out into the hole. And again, more trash. That wasn't there. That's not ours. My husband doesn't drink bush. Jax, come! Hey! Come here. You're not supposed to go out there alone. Come here. Come on. Jax! Good boy. I'm getting a little better on that recall. What'd you see? So many smells up there. Clearly we have a lot of deer and stuff on the property. You got metal right there. All this gravel, not supposed to be here. Come up here. What is that? Some kind of chemical bottle? Again, not ours. What is it? Oh God, it's gonna eat me up. Bar and chain oil. I mean, we have a chainsaw, but we don't have a need for that much. You know what? This might actually not be what, I mean, it could be what came down on the ditch, but this also could potentially be something left over by the loggers who came on our property 2 years ago. So, let's cut back over here. So, we were told that the best the highway department could do is maybe dig up to that first culvert. That's it. From there. Out of all the ditch that needs digging. This all of this whole area used to come up from here to over there. That's how wide this ditch was. And it was easily 4 or 5 feet deep. Like, we almost got the truck stuck because my back wheel was hanging off and it was teetering. And the whole ditch used to be really super deep like that, and you can see that it's filling in. Oh, there's a campaign sign. Mind you, my house is way up there. So again, more trash coming onto our property. Gatorade bottle still with Gatorade in it. Digging this whole tree out. Tree looks pretty dead. This used to be very extremely deep. It's starting to fill in even up here. And you'll see we have a gate here. Our property, pretty much from that post right there, straight up, not near the road, but straight up, that's our property line. And it's the smoothest portion of our property, so that's where we want to put the new path up, so we don't run into issues like our truck not going up the hill. Old Walmart bag. Whatever that yellow container is. And this is where it cuts across our property. This is where it comes onto our property. And you can see that while the ditch is way down there, the road is way up there. So to everybody who keeps trying to tell me, oh, just block it off, I would literally have to build a 10 or 12 foot dam to block it off and divert all the water off of my property. And as you can see, it's not a good way for them to put a ditch here. So I don't know how they're going to go about it, but they need to redirect all this water off of my property, because it's not really a good way for them to put a ditch in here. Okay, let's try to climb up here. Oops, daisies. So we're gonna walk over here just a little bit. So that's where the ditch is. It's down there. But if you follow it around, so my property goes from that fence post straight back that way. So this is officially my neighbor's property. So there's more ditch. That's technically the roadside ditch. Come up here. There's a ditch. More of the ditch. And here's where it meets the roadside. Maybe their easiest bet would be to divert it from here and attempt to create a new ditch, but with the power poles where they are and all the trees and everything, it'd be a really big project. And so you can see this ditch continues on up the road and it goes all the way up the hill. And even though that looks like the top of the hill, that's not the top of the hill. It just flattens out a little bit. And there's more hilltop. There's probably 2 or 3 miles worth of ditch that all pours into here. And all of that water is coming down onto my property and destroying it according to the assessment of my property value as of 2022. The county believes my property to be valued at about $150,000, despite the work that we've put into cleaning it up and putting in new fencing. We bought the house for $179,000, which was actually below asking price back in 2019. So I was wrong earlier saying $20,000 lost. It's $30,000 lost in property value. This is supposed to be agricultural land, and I can't use it for anything in the current state it's in. And there's just such a volume of washout coming down this ditch and spilling onto my property that we cannot keep up with it. Not with just hand tools. And we don't have the big equipment to manage it. And we shouldn't have to manage it because it is the county's water, the county's waste. county's gravel all coming down onto my property. If it was just the water that came washing down our hill, we could manage that. We cannot manage this. There's simply too much. So I have asked the county for reparations for the damage and property value lost, and for the money that it will cost us to fix it, including equipment to scrape the tons of gravel off of my property, to re-even the land, to reseed and replant and regrow what was once very fertile pasture. You can see that it's just cutting a path through my property. Just look at it. None of that's supposed to be here. All of this gravel was not here last summer. None of this was. None of these rocks, nothing. More trash. What is that even? A poopsie container? Like a Monster Energy drinks? Trash. Trash. Coming down onto my property. Turning my property into a freaking dump. I've asked for reparations and the money to fix it. And I have asked that they divert all county ditch water from coming onto my property. And I have asked that until they are able to divert all county water coming onto my property, that they pay us money for the right for all of this junk and washout and sediment to come onto my property, to pay us for the equipment rental it will cost us to maintain the ditches in the state that they should be maintained, plus money for the man hours to maintain the ditch. The county has not answered me. I do not believe they intend to ever answer me. And I believe we are going to be forced into taking legal action. Problem is we don't actually have any money. So maybe I can find a lawyer who will sue the county and then take the legal fees from a settlement. I think that's about our only option going into this, as we have not been left with any other options. We have tried to hand dig this ditch multiple times, and it just does us no good because of how quickly this stuff comes in. It just fills in the ditch too quickly. This ditch needs to be dug out at minimum, probably every other month. Probably best practices would be to do maintenance digs once a month and pray that we get through the winter when the ground gets too hard to dig. Anywho, that is the update for the ditches, their condition, the damages being done to my property as of March 29th, 2023. The lake in our side yard is growing ever larger by the day because we always have more water pouring down. Lenica signing off.